You know, it's so funny. You talk to people about time periods in the past, and God, I should have been born then.
No.
And I'm thinking, yeah, do you know how rough it was back then?
Yeah.
Oh, I should have been born in the medieval times.
Really? That's pre-toilet paper.
Pre-toilet.
Yeah, good point. Oh, they just shit wherever they wanted to back in those days. I mean, come on.
No.
Pre-soap.
Yeah. I've been spoiled by the 20th and 21st century.
The only time you'd bathe is if you fell in a creek.
Right.
That was really about, or if you got stuck outside in the rain.
Yeah.
Dude, no air conditioning.
And hot.
And
And muggy.
And stink. Oh my God, the smell.
Yeah. You didn't come in from a day at work and go, damn, honey, I need a shower.
No, that didn't happen. You might wash your hands before dinner, but that was about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm mostly wet. I need to dry off. Now let's eat.
And, dude, I don't even think there was forks back in those days. I think everybody ate with their hands.
When did the fork come into?
Good question.
Good question.
Let's
to the internet.
To the internet. Let's see here.
They were using them. I don't know if they were using them in the medieval period. I think they might have been.
When was the dinner fork invented? I bet you it was several thousand years ago by the Chinese.
Or the Egyptians.
Wrong. No. No. According to the Royal Museums of Greenwich.
The Disney Corporation.
No. The Royal Museum of Greenwich in England. The fork was introduced to Europe in the 10th century by Theophanu Byzantine, wife of Emperor Otto II. It made its way to Italy by the 11th century and had become popular amongst merchants by the 14th century.
All right.
So the 1300s.
Yes. So they were probably eating with at least a two-tined fork.
Something, some sort of stabbing apparatus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Now, okay, this is nerdy, but I wonder what the evolution of the fork is.
Good point. Apparently, a lot of people assume the fork was introduced to the West during the Middle Ages, although personally, it says here, whoever wrote this, I've never really thought about it, but it was, in fact, invented a lot earlier than this. There's plenty of evidence of forks being used by the ancient Greeks, and they are even mentioned in the Bible in the book of Samuel, chapter 2, verse 13.
Really? What'd they say?
I stab at thee, and they're bleeding heart. I don't know.
I used my fork.
Early forks were only used for spearing or holding things in place while cutting, and would have had 2 or 3 straight tines, and therefore have been of no use for scooping food.
Okay.
Before the fork became widely used across Europe, diners were dependent on spoons and knives, and therefore would largely eat with their hands and use a communal spoon when needed.
Wow.
This made dining a non-too hygienic affair, as stews and soups were served in a communal bowl, which guests could just dip into. These soon became filled with bits of whatever other foods the guests were eating at the time. A gentleman would wear their hat to dinner and stand and doff them in salute to each course as it was brought in, and the tablecloth would act as a giant napkin for all the guests to wipe their fingers and even their knives on.
Wow.
God, last time I tried that, I got yelled at.
Yes.
The fork was introduced to Europe in the 10th century by this wife of Emperor Otto. We went through all of that. When the fork was first introduced as an eating implement, it was normal for people to have their own knife and fork made, which would be kept in a special box called a cadena. Whenever someone, threw a dinner party or a feast, all the people would just bring their own cadena to eat with. They'd bring their own cutlery.
You know what? That's a good plan.
I like this idea.
I do, too. I'm going to buy one fork and one knife. That's it.
And a spoon.
And a spoon.
This custom was then introduced to France in the entourage of Catherine de Medici.
Oh.
Forks, however, never really caught on in Britain. Of course not.
No. However, now
while our European cousins were tucking in with their new eating irons, the British simply laughed at this feminine affection of the Italians. British men would eat with their fingers and were proud of it. By God, back when men were men.
and sheep were scared.
What's more, that's Scotland. What's more, even the church was against the use of forks, despite them being in the Bible. Some writers for the Roman Catholic Church declared it an excessive delicacy.
Oh, my God.
God, in his wisdom, had provided us with natural forks, our fingers.
Just like that commercial.
And it would be an insult to him to substitute them for these metallic devices. Eventually, we caught on around about the 18th century, about the same time that the curved four-tined variety became popular after its development in Germany. The common fork that we use now that's curved.
Right.
The fork was further developed in the 19th century with the invention of the spork. Half fork, half spoon. Yep, I have a picture one.
Holy shit.
Super
It was from the 50s
device.
or 60s.
Nope. The device of the spork is shaped like a spoon and can scoop food, while the front had a few tines. So you have your fork, and then you have the spoon on the side.
I've been to KFC.
No, it's not like that. No, that's a whole different deal. This made it convenient and easy to use, and it has found popularity in fast food and military settings, of course. And you can even get special varieties which have a serrated edge for cutting with.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
REI carries some really cool ones.
The National Maritime Museum has some fantastic examples of forks throughout the ages. Oddly enough that it's in that place, but there it is.
Oh, yeah.
Including this toasting fork that I'm going to show you here.
Wait, toasting fork?
Yeah, it's the traditional three-tined poking and holding variety, and a special adapted knife fork used by Admiral Nelson after the loss of his arm.
Oh! Well, look at that.
There you go.
That's interesting.
That it is.
Wait, how do you eat off of that without cutting your lip?
Very carefully.
It looked like there was a hinge on the knife blade.
It's not a hinge, it's a set screw. You can take it off.
Oh.
Presumably if you swallowed it or something.
So you lose an arm and you just cut it with that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there
On one side.
There you go. There's oddly enough a little bit of trivia about the history of our eating utensils.
Yeah. I got 10 forks right here.
Yeah. I don't know how true this is. I've heard this from several sources, a couple of them rather reliable, that Elvis Presley never used restaurant cutlery.
Oh, yeah. That he carried his own.
He carried his own. He carried his own spoon, his own knife, and his own fork.
Oh, yeah.
And then after he ate, he would wipe it and pop it back in his pocket. Maybe he had a little roll-up thing. I don't know. A cadena. I don't know. But I do like that idea.
I think that's a great idea, though.
Yes. I'll just bring my own cutlery. Thank you very much.
Yes. You start showing up with our own plates at the restaurant. Hey, would you?
That's carrying it too far. But, the cutlery, I can see that.
No, I can see that, too. I think that's it's kind of interesting.
It is.
How we've evolved from bring your own cutlery to
just taking it for
I've
granted.
Got service for 12.
Right.
Exactly. Bought at the dollar store,
Yeah.
It's just, yes.
Exactly.